Okay, 5 basic principles of democracy. Now, as we've established, we don't live in a democracy, but we certainly have democratic values, yes? Okay? And so with that, let's look at what the concepts that keep democracy alive and well. Okay? So the first of those is a belief in the fundamental worth of every individual. Fundamental worth of the individual. That's number one. Now, if we all have value, we all have worth, we try and uphold that dignity of people. Okay? But at the same time, most decisions in a democracy are made by a what? A majority. Okay? So most decisions are made by a majority, whether it's a vote in Congress or whether it's a vote locally to raise property taxes or to build an arena downtown, which the downtown arena passed 51 to 49%. Okay? Now, is there ever a case where we subordinate the will of one person for the interest of the many? Even though every person has worth, we subordinate their will to the interests of many. We ever do that? Yeah, we do that. Can you name an example? Yeah. Okay, so we subordinate the will of an individual by restricting the right to have an abortion to save babies? Is that what we're saying? Okay, give me a different, yeah.
So the will for the livelihood
Of the baby, so that mothers have a right to choose what they do. That's what you're saying. Ah, yeah, that's a good one. But then we have a problem. Okay, because that baby has a right, a natural right to what? Life. Right? Which is a God-given right. Yeah, we got a problem there. And that was kind of my point, what I was trying to get to was with more of a secular one to more of a, when it comes to your rights, you cannot subordinate one person's rights for the will of, of the many when it comes to your rights. But in other areas where we're not talking about rights, we do this all the time. Okay, because I don't want the arena. I don't want to pay higher taxes for the arena, but I lost. So you're subordinating my will for the will of the 51%. Does that make sense? That didn't violate my rights. I just got to pay more in taxes. You with me? But when it does come to your rights, that's where we should draw the line. Okay? Now those rights, whether they're God-given, the natural rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness or property, or the rights that we find in the Bill of Rights, which are written by man. Okay? So the right to a trial by jury, that can't be subordinated. You follow me? Okay, but there are many other areas where we do, the welfare of one can be subordinated by the interests of the many. Okay, that's democratic. Okay, the second basic concept of democracy is equality of all persons. We all have value, we all have worth. Okay? Now, we know the line in the Declaration of Independence, right? That all men are created equal. Yes? Now, did our first Constitution and our second Constitution allow for the enslavement of human beings? Yes. Okay. That is a violation of democratic principles. Being able to enslave another human being. Okay. When we're talking about equality here, what we should be talking about is equality under the law. So the law treats everyone equally. Does that make sense? Okay. Not equality of outcome. Right? Equality of outcome is what? Can we do that? Where everybody in here gets the same grade. Yeah, I mean, we could institute communism in a true Marxist sense. We could institute communism and make everyone equal. But we choose not to do that. Okay? So equality of all persons under the law. Okay? And I come back to the 14th Amendment on this. Okay, the 14th Amendment that says all people, all citizens, treated equally under the law. Okay? So, even though our founding document, the Declaration, says it, our constitutions allowed for violations of equality. In the last 200 years, we have been seeking to fulfill the promise of the founding document, the Declaration of Independence, saying that all men are created equal. Okay? So, have we gotten better at this in the last 200 years?
Yeah.
Ruby? You were in La La Land there for a second. Yeah. Remember that video I showed during history? That's what I was seeing. Okay. I'm going to my mouse when I don't need to go to my mouse. Okay. The third basic concept of democracy is majority rules and minority rights. Majority rules and minority rights. RIGHTS, rights. So when the majority makes a decision, the 51% makes a decision. Is it always right? No. But it is the decision that is the most pleasing to the most people. Yes?
Yes.
Now, white people, talking to you, white people, okay? White people used to be a majority of this country. Today, white people are a plurality of this country. What's the difference? The most, right? So the most of the people, but not a majority of the people, are white, okay? And one day, white people will become a minority in this country. And when they become a minority, if the white people, while they were the majority, did not protect the rights of the minority, Should they maybe expect that maybe when they become a minority, then their rights may not be protected? Majority is 50. You got it.
No, I couldn't really hear it, but I didn't want you to think we were talking about something on public. I just didn't understand.
Okay,
So
that's fine. Yeah, real quick, it's easy. 51% or more is a majority. Plurality is the most. So we have many different, so Hispanic Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans, Native Americans, you know, Arab Americans, so forth, yes? As far as white goes, I assume you have some Irish in you?
Yeah.
You're considered white, okay? Italian Americans are considered white, German Americans, so forth, right? And so they now make up the largest group, but it doesn't reach 51%. So we have the most white people, most of the population, but not a majority of them. So we're like at like 46% of the population, but not 51. Yeah, plurality. Okay. All right. So yeah, it's just it makes sense, right? Okay, to protect minorities' rights. All right, you've got to stop their rights from being destroyed. Okay, that's our job. I mean, we've got to protect rights, and like I said, that's why I keep circling back to this amendment, because that's where it really happens. Okay, with that, your protections, your rights are protected by the national government. Those are incorporated in the states. So if you live in Mississippi, okay, where, you know, the white people might not be so friendly to black people, your rights are still protected by the national government, by the U.S. Constitution. And that trumps the state of Mississippi. Follow me? That's the 14th Amendment, okay? Okay, the fourth basic concept of democracy is the necessity of compromise. The necessity of compromise. Okay, right now Congress is considering, and President Biden is pushing, a $3.4 trillion infrastructure bill. Okay? Will the Republicans compromise? Will the Democrats compromise? Will they be able to work out something? Obviously, a lot of Republicans think this is nuts. Okay? Especially since we're at $28 trillion in national debt. Yes?
Didn't we already pass an infrastructure bill for like $1 trillion?
Yeah, 1.2 trillion. That was a couple months ago. Now this one has a lot of fun stuff in it. Okay, it's got a lot of green stuff in it. Is what it's got. Okay, so anyhow, will there be a compromise? And should there be a compromise? Depends on how you feel, right winger.
Well, they can't talk to each other without yelling at each other.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's pretty defined. It is. I mean that's and there's some cultural changes that come along with this as well. I mean, you have to dig into the nitty gritty of the bill. But anyhow, that being said, look, Democrats control the majority in Congress right now. 12-seat majority in the House, 1-seat majority with the Vice President in the Senate. Okay. So you kind of got to give them the majority. They're the majority. Okay. But at the same time, the majority needs to work with the minority here, okay, and come up with multiple solutions to a problem. Okay, so sometimes you see compromise, sometimes you don't in Washington. Okay, that's the way the system was designed. Okay, I talk to moderates, and they get frustrated about Washington, D.C. and how seemingly nothing gets done. Okay? That's the way it's supposed to be. If it was easy to pass laws, would we have more laws? Laws are generally a restriction on what? Or your freedom, whether it be economic freedom or something else. Yes? So do we want to make it easy to pass laws? I don't think so. You don't want to make it too easy. Okay, so gridlock is part of the way the system was designed. Remember the first quote in the beginning when I started the notes? Churchill said, democracy is the worst form of government on earth, except for all the rest. Okay? Not pretty. Now, are there some issues that are uncompromising that I will not compromise? Okay, maybe from people that want them. Okay. But would you compromise on certain gun laws that might make sense, like not allowing people to have fully automatic weapons?
Yes.
Okay, so that's not uncompromisable. Are there any uncompromisable issues to you? Somebody say it. Abortion. Okay. So let's say, got this, right? Biden really wants this. Pelosi really wants this. Okay. You get a Republican from Kansas, says to Ron Estes, goes to Nancy and says, Nancy, okay, listen, let's compromise. If you can put in this bill that all late-term abortions are illegal, I'll vote for the infrastructure bill. Now, you guys know what late-term abortions are. Is that something you would think about doing? Like if you could get a ban on late-term abortions? The lives that you could save doing that? It's a baby step in the right direction. No pun intended. I know it's Friday afternoon. You just had lunch. I'm freaking trying up here.
It's the mask. You can't see our face.
I know, it sucks. All right, so yeah, I think the only one is slavery. Really, like, no, we're not going to compromise on slavery. Now, we did, we'll talk about that later, the 3/5, right? You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Right? But at the time, they're just trying to create a new constitution. Okay, so yeah, it's a mess. So yeah, I think you have to do give and take, and if you can work with the other side, see what you can work out. Okay, we talk about how ugly politics are right now, right? And there's a genuine, and Lily brought it up, like there's a genuine hatred for the other side. You know what I mean? And that stinks. That stinks. Okay. When Reagan was president, okay, when Ronald Reagan was president, the Speaker of the House was a guy named Tip O'Neill, who was an Irish Catholic Democrat. Okay, and in the media, Reagan and Tip O'Neill would jab at each other, throw stones at each other in the media. But when they got together in a room or went out to dinner, they were actually friends. They disagreed on policy, public policy, but it didn't get to the point of hatred. You know what I mean? For the other person. And I think as citizens, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or a moderate, what we need to do a better job of is electing people that are willing to talk to the other side. I mean, the leadership that we have in both parties, in my opinion, sucks. Okay? Because I would call out Mitch McConnell, the Senate, majority Senate leader for the Republicans in the Senate, just as much as I'll call out Nancy Pelosi, who's the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Okay? I think they're both awful. Okay, get to start the weekend a little early, Ruby. Okay. All right, moving on. The fifth basic concept of democracy is individual freedom. Individual freedom. Now, absolute freedom would mean what? Anarchy. Yes. We would be living in a state of
Mad Max.
Huh?
Mad Max.
Come on, let's go back to political philosophy here.
Chaos.
A state of nature. Okay. We had absolute freedom.
Is someone on? Is it Adam?
Yeah, Adam's on.
Oh, he said it.
Oh, thanks, bud. And I don't know what happened because I pinned myself the other day and you had half the screen. I don't know if you noticed that. People at home probably did. Because Adam's like on half the screen recording. Okay. I don't know how to fix that. Okay. So yeah, you kind of look like the Unabomber with like the hood on and stuff like that. Okay, yeah, so we can't have absolute freedom. This is why we set up the social contract, okay, to control ourselves. We get to decide on the laws to control ourselves, okay? Now, couple of quotes, and you don't need to know these for the test, but this is what Chief Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes said. He was on the Supreme Court. He said, "The right to swing my fist. I'm allowed to swing my fist, but my right to swing my fist ends where your nose begins. So as soon as my actions negatively impact you, especially physically, my rights end." Okay. And then JFK said this: "The rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened." Which is kind of deep. The rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened. So, I'm really big on that, guys, with free speech. Like, so, even if the person that is speaking, you despise what's coming out of their mouth, they have the right to say in this country. Okay? That's big. You know, and we've got to hold true to that individual freedom, especially when it comes to speech. Okay? And speech extends to expression, how we express ourselves. Okay? I hate the cancel culture. I hate that. Okay? When people lose their jobs over saying what they believe is true. Okay? I think we're going down a politically correct path that we don't want to go down. You guys know the term political correctness? Yeah. Do you understand? So like the words we use are changed over time because of pressure from society not to use those words. Okay? For instance, and I'm just going to use an example here. Okay? I'm not trying to offend anybody. The word retarded. Okay? That is something that your parents and I grew up saying. You know, that's retarded. Okay? But now we're taught that, well, that's offensive to some people who may have family members that are actually retarded. Okay? Which that's not even the proper term to use anymore, even though it is proper in the sense that of the meaning of the word, it fits, but you're supposed to use different language that is less offensive. So you could lose your job. I could lose my job for using that word. That is actually true. That a person with Down syndrome has retarded faculties. You can look up the word and what it means. Are you following me? I'm not trying to be offensive here. I'm just trying to make a point. Okay? Now the term political correctness, do you know where that originated?
Stalin.
Joseph Stalin. Okay? Thank you. Seriously, guys, that's where it comes from. So if you don't say the right things politically, you disappear. You go to Siberia, to the Gulag, where you're likely to die for saying the wrong thing politically. Are you with me on this?
Yes.
Now we've got Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube censoring people's speech. Now they're private companies and they're allowed to do that. Okay? But when you take the president of the United States off of Twitter, who is now the former, okay, and you allow the head of the Taliban to spread propaganda on your platform, but you don't let the president, who does mean tweets, does anybody see a problem with that? I mean, I know you might not like Trump, and I get that. I understand why people don't like Trump. Okay? But if they can do it to him, they can do it to you. Now, they're not the government, and nobody's going to jail. But you could certainly lose your job. You could be canceled. Okay? So, I don't know. If you want to live in that PC utopia, where you got to walk around on eggshells worried about the speech police because you don't want to offend anybody, go ahead. I don't want to live in that world. Okay, now that's a little commentary from Mr. Ebright. That's opinion. Okay, but you guys are going to college next year, and you got to watch what you say on the college campus. Okay, it's like heightened anxiety there about triggering somebody, microaggressions. You think I'm kidding? You can get kicked out of college for stuff. Kicked out of your sorority for supporting the wrong candidate, that sort of thing. Come on, people. Grow some skin. You know what I mean by that? Thick skin. Okay. Now, I know that's easy coming from the white male Christian guy, okay? It's easy coming from me, right? Where I haven't faced the type of societal impacts based on race or religion and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, you don't have to take it from me. But there are people of other races and religions that say the same thing I'm saying, too. Okay. But, all right? Throw it out there. So what we're looking for, guys, is a proper balance between individual rights and the rights of society. Looking for a good balance, a proper balance between individual rights and the rights of society. When we look at democratic values, okay? Therein ends the objective portion of your test. Henceforward is all towards the essay portion of your test, here on, okay? Now, when we start this part, we're going to be looking at the English tradition. Let's just start a new header and maybe write in your notes there like essay starting here or essay off to the side. I'm going to give you the headline here. You guys tell me, we've got one of those reading days coming up again. Okay? You tell me. You want it over the weekend or do you want it Monday? Because I can stall till Tuesday. Okay, but Monday you guys will have time to read and do a little bit of homework. Not a lot of it, won't be real hard. You're looking at, you're going to need 30, 45 minutes to do this. To do it right. Monday? Yeah. Okay. For those of you, I mean, I'm going to tell you what it is now. You'll have till Tuesday. Okay. So if anybody's in a pinch on Monday, got to work or something, they can do it over the weekend. Good. Okay. So on page 20 of your book, there is a graphic. called Roots of Our Rights. Okay? There's 3 documents there, okay? And they're on page 20A, B, C, D, and E. 3 documents. These are 3 English constitutions. Okay? Magna Carta, the Petition of Right, not rights, Petition of Right, and the English Bill of Rights. Okay? 1215, 1628, and 1688. Okay? Now, what you're going to do is read those documents. These are not the full documents. Welcome. The full Constitution. And you're going to try and find those rights in these documents. And where you find a right in a document, you check it or do an X. Okay? Where you don't find a right, you just leave it blank. Okay? And then what you'll do on Tuesday when you come in, you guys are all going to come to the front of the class. I'll be sitting at the desk, and you'll show me your chart. I'll look at your chart and give you a 9 or a 10. Okay? I don't know if I've ever given anybody an 8. Okay? So I'll look at your chart and give you a 9 or a 10. All right? So you'll want to think about what you're reading and also think about history. What was going on at the time? Okay? That'll be a 10-point assignment. And then we'll discuss it. I'll go over the chart with you on Tuesday. Okay? Good? Okay? So those of you that may not be here on Tuesday, or none of you, or some of you that are on Tuesday, take a picture of it and send it to me. Okay? And I'll give you your points. All right? So that's where we're going next, is looking at the English tradition's impact on our system. Okay? That's your header. Okay? English tradition's impact on our government, on our system. Okay? Now what we're going to do, guys, we're going on a journey. 1215 to 1776. That's what your essays are. 500 years. Okay? So there'll be 3 main paragraphs that you're going to be writing about. I will be covering in the notes. Okay? One is the English tradition's impact. That I will do notes on Monday. Okay? And then the second one is the growth of the colonies. Okay, so we had wound up with 13 colonies. Okay, and we're going to look at their forms of government. What was going on in the colonial governments and that impact on our system. Okay, and then we're going to look at the Revolutionary era leading up to the American Revolution and its impact on our government. So those are going to be your 3-body paragraphs for the essay. Okay? And I'll give you notes on all of that. Sound good? And that'll take us a couple days. And there's also some video I want to show you as well. Okay? So next week we'll have a video day in there somewhere. Okay? Maybe 2 days. Okay? Have any of you guys seen, I know Lily's seen a little bit of it, John Adams, HBO documentary or docu-movie? There's 9 episodes. Okay? What I'm most concerned with are the first 2 episodes. It's based on the book by David McCullough on John Adams. Okay? We have some Hamilton fans in here, like the Broadway show Hamilton. You're into that, right? So you know that's based off of what's his name's book? What's his name? It's over here. Somewhere. Doggone it. I use that every year, so I'll find it. But anyhow, Ron Chernow, thank you. Ron Chernow's book, Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, okay? It's there.
Yeah,
Found it?
still done.
Okay. Yeah, the Broadway show based off of it. I'll go ahead and get this up. We'll be using it soon. Okay. But McCullough's book on John Adams, they made it into a mini series, and it's extremely well done. And we often forget John Adams because he was always number 2. You know what I mean? Behind Washington. John Adams once said, "The history books will forget me. They'll mention Washington, they'll praise Washington and Franklin, Jefferson, but they will forget me." Okay. So David McCullough wrote this book, and so there's been a lot of tension on John Adams academically in the last few years, which is great because he played a vital role in the forming of this country. So we will give him his due. Okay. And I'm going to cut it off right there. Good. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Like, subscribe. Bye.